Donald Trump has defended his use of tariffs and dismissed concerns about market volatility sparked by the global trade turmoil. Speaking to a gathering of business leaders in Washington on Tuesday, the US president said his trade policy was already showing results.
We have car companies that are not building in Mexico now, they're building in the United States. Some of them, the plants were already started and they stopped construction, and now they're going to build in the United States. It was very unfair that they'd build in Mexico and sell them across the border with no tax, no nothing.
In the audience were around 100 CEOs, and some of them may be feeling growing unease. They've all seen some $4 trillion wiped off the value of US stocks in recent weeks, amid fears over the impact of the trade war. Businesses have also been concerned by the volatility of the tariffs, which have been variously imposed and delayed, raised and lowered. On Tuesday there was more of that, with turmoil over duties on Canadian metals. Early in the day, Trump said he would double levies to 50%. He was responding to a move by the Canadian province of Ontario to impose its own tariffs on electricity supplied to America. Hours later, Ontario dropped the move, and Trump said US duties would stick at 25%. The fresh day of turmoil drove another down day for stocks, outweighing glimmers of hope over a Ukraine ceasefire. More big firms, including retailer Kohl's, also warned that the darkening economic outlook was hitting sales. In the end, the Dow Jones Index closed the day down another 1%. But if that worries Trump, it didn't show on Tuesday.
The tariffs are having a tremendously positive impact. They will have, and they are having.
Trump said his tariffs would generate a lot of money for the US and could be raised even higher in the days ahead.
A little while ago, I had an opportunity to speak to Secretary Lutnick. And Secretary Lutnick has sent out an olive branch to us to come down and immediately meet with him, meet with the whole trade administration, and discuss the future. Rather than waiting till April the 2nd, threats going back and forth, tit for tat, I've agreed to suspend temporarily, and we always have that tool in our toolkit, until we sit down over the next day or two. I'll be heading down to Washington along with Dominic LeBlanc, and we'll have a good discussion. There's a point that both parties are heated and the temperature needs to come down. And I thought this was the right decision. They understand how serious we are about the electricity and the tariffs. And rather than going back and forth and having threats to each other, we have both agreed, let cooler heads prevail. We need to sit down and move this forward. So I want to thank Secretary Lutnick for reaching out, putting that olive branch in. I've been in business a number of years, a lot of negotiations, and part of the last negotiation, when someone does that, you have to respect that person for putting out that olive branch, and I'm going to make sure we go down there and have a very good but strong and confident conversation. But if he continues with the aluminum and the steel, I just got off the phone with Minister LeBlanc. They will respond dollar for dollar, tariff for tariff.
As you know, there's a very strong man in Canada who said he was going to charge a surcharge or a tariff on electricity coming into our country. He has called and he said he's not going to do that. Okay, he's not going to do that. And it would have been a very bad thing if he did, and he's not going to do that, so I respect that. But we were just informed that he's not going to do that.
Will you make a different decision now about the tariffs on Canada? Will you reduce it?
At that, but probably so. Yeah, he was a gentleman. I think our country had to do this. We had to go and do this. They've taken away other countries. Have taken away our business. They've taken away our jobs. I did it initially very strongly against, as you know, China and some others in the first term, and it was a very successful term. We had no inflation. We had the greatest economy in the history of our country.
Tesla stock is
you're
also...
going to have drops, and markets are going to go up and they're going to go down.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have to rebuild our country. Our country has been stripped of its jobs, of its factories, and I'm tired of seeing where they build apartments, cheap apartments in an old broken down factory. But you have factories all over the place that are empty from many decades ago. And we're going to change it around. And it's all taxing policy.
We were just very disappointed, because we thought the Americans were our friends. And we still believe that many Americans are still our friends. But we are disappointed by the words from your president, that we feel is not a very bright person.
Well, it concerns me as a Canadian. I worry about our relationships and how it's going to affect the economy and the young people who are trying to make a life. And we have so many struggles as there is. Why do we need to add to it with the tariffs?
A young person starting out, I'm concerned about our economy, about being able to buy a house one day, and just being aware of where my stuff's coming from, because I don't want to get caught up in this.
U.S. President Donald Trump said on Tuesday that he was doubling his planned tariff on all steel and aluminum products from Canada to 50%. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the additional 25% tariff on Canadian metals will go into effect on Wednesday morning.
We need to end the chaos once and for all.
It comes in response to Ontario Premier Doug Ford imposing a 25% tariff on electricity coming into Michigan, Minnesota, and New York State.
This surcharge will cost families and businesses in these states up to $400,000 each and every single day. On an average, this will add around $100 per month to the bills of hardworking Americans.
On Tuesday, Ford said he would not back down until Trump's tariffs on Canadian imports were gone for good, echoing his words a day earlier.
If the United States escalates, I will not hesitate to shut the electricity off completely.
Trump also threatened to substantially increase tariffs on cars coming into the U.S., quote, if other egregious long-time tariffs are not likewise dropped by Canada. The hyper-focus on tariffs since Trump took office has rattled investor, consumer, and business confidence in ways that economists increasingly worry could cause a recession.
Carney is going to focus on economic policy. It's clear that's his expertise. That it is really the central preoccupation of Canadians now is the cost of living. And of course, this is going to get even more acute an issue if the tariffs come on, the tariffs that Donald Trump is threatening. If they're imposed upon Canada, then obviously we're in the prospect, people say depending on how long this goes on, we face the real prospect of a recession. What we really do need is a kind of a coherent strategy to make us less dependent upon the U.S., but at the same time, because we're geographically so close and we're so dependent on that market, we have to also think about having a continuing kind of relationship with the U.S. His acceptance speech yesterday, he made it very clear that he will not, deter from the existing Trudeau line, which is that, we're going to fight back, that we have to fight back with these counter tariffs.